everyone, this is Bentley, and I'm here with Darren from Rogue Aquariums.
How you guys doing?
And we're sitting in front of the tiniest tank ever. And if you can tell by the size of our heads compared to this thing, that's a blatant lie. So, Darren, I want you to just tell us a little bit about this monster project of yours.
Well, it started off about a year and a half ago. I decided to go with a larger tank. This was quite a bit larger than I wanted to go with, but I kind of fell into this. And I had it for since March of 2018. I've had it since then. And got it stored. We decided to go ahead and move over here to where we're currently located now. So I've been working on this build here for approximately a year, since last July when we bought the house.
Okay.
And it's located in my garage. It's 8 feet long, and it's 4 feet front to back, and it's 30 inches tall. And it's sitting on a 36-inch stand with a 6-inch sub base, so total stand is 42 inches.
Jeez. So just to give perspective, we're sitting on the side of the tank. So the total gallonage just in the tank, without accounting like top off or anything like that, how many gallons are we talking?
This tank here is 600.
100. I call that a dream. That's what I call it.
This is actually a dream tank of mine. I had really wanted about a 375-gallon tank. This system right here was built by Jason Gregory, who owns Clear Fabrications in Seattle. He manufactured this tank for somebody, another client, about 6 years ago, and the person, for just different reasons, decided not to set it up. So he called me up and said, "Hey, I've got a client that's selling this tank. Are you interested?" And I said, "Sure." And I said, "What size is it?" And he told me, and when I saw the tank, I had to have it. This is just a dream. This is a dream tank. It's actually a dream tank. And so I went ahead and he accepted the amount of money that I offered him, and with 5 other people, I purchased the tank, and we took it out of there and put it in storage.
And just so people understand, we're not going to talk how much the tank cost, but as a part of making sure you could secure this thing, you sold something kind of near and dear to your heart.
Yes, I did. I had a motorcycle I sold. So I wasn't riding it too much, but it's something I had built, and I really liked it. But when I saw this system, I made the decision to sell my motorcycle.
We laughed about this earlier, but for YouTube's purposes, do you miss the bike?
What bike?
Yeah, that's a fish nerd. That's a fish nerd right there. So when we're talking, so of course you guys can tell by the blue light, this is saltwater. So you haven't always done saltwater though, and you have a freshwater tank at work that you maintain.
Yes, I do.
So how long have you been in aquatics, period?
Over 25 years.
Okay, and then you did freshwater for how long?
About 22.
About 22. There are some planes overhead, so if you hear that, I'm sorry, but we work with what we can work with. Now, how long have you done salt?
Since July of 2015.
Okay, so recent.
Right.
Basically only slightly longer than I've been back in the hobby.
Right.
And we met, just for clarification, we met at a small saltwater convention called Reefworks.
Right.
That's here 2 years ago now. And we won't get into that story. That just reminds me of being a dummy. But and ever since we've been talking because of your freshwater tank that you've been slowly planting, and you've got some rainbows in it, and that's kind of how we've gotten to know each other. And you're casually trying to get me into saltwater pretty hard. But so how long does it take for a tank like this just to get cycled in salt water?
Currently now I'm working on cycling this tank, and I'm using a product right now which is in a beta phase testing that we're trying to cut this cycle period down from usually about 3 or 4 weeks. And this is a fishless cycle.
Okay.
So we're trying to cut it down to about 1 week.
Okay.
So this is something that's, like I said, in the beta test phase right now, and I'm currently cycling the system right now.
That's about the most we can talk about.
Correct.
Because it's a beta, and I work in tech where I work with NDAs all day long, and prototype hardware and software, and I'm used to that stuff. Now, that's really just colonizing the rock, right?
Correct.
Which this is all the really cool Carib Sea rock, correct?
Right. What you see back here is the Carib Sea. I've got the extra large arch rock. You can see a couple of the archways right here. These are 2-foot sections, and I've got 8 of those, and I've got some of the shape rock in here. So I've got 10 boxes of the shape rock and 4 boxes of the XL Mega Arch Rock.
Yeah, and I'll do a walk around of this tank later, and you guys will get to see that. But this thing is insane. Like we were joking earlier that the water box guys are doing a really cool thing with their Eel Island stuff. Well, that's just a baby compared to this thing. I mean, this is 4 times the size of that tank, and easily 4 times as much rock, probably 5.
Yeah, when you're putting a lot of rock work in a saltwater system, sometimes less is more. You want to make sure that you have a good rock structure and a good way for detritus to be suspended up in the water column. So right now, the rock we have in here, I'm really happy with the way it's scaped out, and we've got it rock positioned in certain ways so it's structurally sound, and it's got a lot of swim throughs for the fish.
So let me ask you this. I know you've got tons of coral, and we're going to show that too. But what fish are you targeting? Like, is there your marquee fish for this tank, or is it more just a nice collection community? What are we shooting for in this thing?
I'm going to have a nice collection of community fish. My flagship fish will be a black long-nosed zebra zoma tank that I've got. I'll have a lot of wrasses in here, a lot of schooling fish like anthias. I'll have some clownfish in here, some different species of clownfish. Yes.
My favorite.
Yes. I'll have some different clownfish in here. Kind of a whole different collection of schooling fish.
Cool. So I don't want to go too technical, just because I'm primarily freshwater, and I know that most of my audience is freshwater. But what would you say? Let's say you have a freshwater person, like you used to be,
right?
And you're thinking about diving into salt. For you, like, what would you say is the easiest transition? Like, how big a tank are we looking at?
I think if you're thinking about getting into salt water, now I had a 300-gallon tank left over from my freshwater days, and I had a lot of cichlids in there. So I kept the 300, and I did what they call a fowler. It's a fish only with live rock in here. I wasn't going to do corals. I love the fish, but since being in the hobby a little bit more, I really love the corals as well, especially LPS. So I just had fish in there, and I just kept it simple. I kept it simple. You don't have to go with a bunch of high-tech pumps, and you can go with some different type of pumps that are non-name brand. They work really well. You just don't have the type of programmability like you do with these higher-tech systems here, these pumps. But you can keep it simple if you want to transition to a smaller tank, or if you had a larger tank like I did, you can just keep it simple. So
let's say, for those of us who don't have a 300 lying around, I'd love to have that problem.
Right.
Just a 300 lying around. What would you say is the smallest, or maybe not necessarily smallest, but what do you say is a good tank size the average aquarist could start with for a fowler setup?
I think you could do a 75-gallon tank or a 90. You could keep some different fish in there. However, if you were going to keep tangs, I wouldn't advocate having 4 or 5 tangs in there. They do better when they have lots of room to swim.
Okay.
But a 75-gallon, I had one at one time, and I had some smaller fish in there, some different basslets. I had some anthias, a couple of wrasses, and they worked out really well.
Okay, now let's say it's somebody like me who, like, the thing I love the most in saltwater is clownfish.
Right.
And about the only thing that might hook me into saltwater is clownfish hosting anemones. What's a good tank size for just, say, a pair of clowns?
You could get a 30-gallon, or you could have a 40-gallon breeder, and that would work well.
Okay. That's good to know. Not too big.
Something small.
Pick it up at $1 per gallon sale, potentially.
You could do that. Of course, the 40-gallon breeders, you get a 50% off now.
Yeah, it's not like the old days where it was no matter what size, it was a fucking gallon.
But even if you had a 29-gallon tank, and if you wanted to get an anemone or you wanted to have some euphyllias where clownfish, will host, that's very doable.
So I guess my last question, because we're going to make this one kind of short on purpose. Let's say that person steps into Fowler, gets Fowler down. What are, maybe you'd pick one or two coral that they would look at as their starters, and maybe we pick a couple different categories. What are the eye-catching but pretty easy for somebody to start stepping into coral? What would you suggest?
Now, with me, I knew nothing about corals when I first started. I've done a lot of research and a lot of reading, and I've met with a lot of people who have a lot of experience in it. I started off with soft corals like exenias, your euphyllias, whether you go with torches or hammers. They're fairly easy to keep. Sometimes they can be a little bit temperamental, but I would definitely start with some exenias or some green star polyps. They're really bright. You can put them on frag plugs and they'll spread like wildfire. So you want to contain them to just one or two rocks, otherwise they'll spread everywhere. But they're very easy to keep. You're talking to somebody that had fresh water for many, many years. And when I delved into this, I just started slow with corals. Yeah. And that's what I kept. And I just started ramping up. And, I'll probably do some soft corals in here as well. I want to have a mixture of corals. But
and for reference, I will come back later once this thing is coraled up and fish are in here. And we'll get to see this thing in its full majesty. But I guess my last little thing is, how long until we start seeing some reasonable video coverage of this bad boy? Because you are going to be doing YouTube stuff.
Correct.
You have an Instagram, which is pretty active.
Right.
I follow your Instagram, which your Instagram is?
Rogue Aquariums.
And your YouTube is?
Rogue Aquariums.
And we'll have links down below,
right.
and at the end of the video too. But, how long until we're going to see, say, coral in this tank?
I'll probably start putting coral in here in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
And then fish?
Fish I'll be putting in here first.
Okay, so fish will come in before the coral?
Fish will come in here before the coral will, yes.
Man, now that gives me a question. Now, with community fish, I'm assuming it's pretty safe to do coral at any time. Is there ever an issue with having coral come in post-fish?
No,
okay.
No, not an issue.
So it's kind of like plants, where it doesn't really matter.
It actually helps when coral come in post-fish because the coral from the fish going to the bathroom, especially you get algae grazers like tangs, they go to the bathroom a lot, and the fish trap a lot of the particles in through the water system, and they'll feed off of that too. So
it's almost like shrimp, where the more seasoned the system is, the better for the coral.
That's correct. Yeah.
Cool. Corals are now shrimp in my mind. That's what I've just put together. That corals are just shrimp.
And by the way, if this is going to be freshwater, tell the audience what I would have put in here.
Clearly predatory. No, rainbow fish. Come on.
Right.
That's how we really have become good friends. Is we both love rainbow fish. But eventually, I will come to you because I know that your long-term plans are doing things like selling coral at swaps, and I think you're putting together a website too, right?
Yes, I have a website put together right now. It's small, but it's rogueaquariums.com. And
easy.
Yes, I'll be aquaculturing my own corals here and raising them up and propagating and selling them. But I do plan on getting a couple of smaller tanks on freshwater too, like maybe a 75, a couple of 75s, and I'll put those up.
It's funny when you say a smaller tank, and most people will be like, oh, like a 10 or a 20 gallon, right? 75 gallon, that's a small tank. When you have 600 gallons and a spare 300 lying around, 75 becomes your small tank. We were kind of laughing at this too, because your sump is only a third full.
Yeah, it's a third full,
and it's 65 to 70 gallons of water in it.
Right.
So just you think about that, do the math. It's 200-gallon sump basically. It's such a great thing, and I'll cut to you guys will get to see a walk around. This thing is insane. We'll show some coral, just some of the stuff that Darren's doing. But we just want to do kind of a short little intro because over time they'll see more of you as interesting, fun things because we don't live terribly far apart. It's really bad when the Washington State Fair is going on and the traffic is miserable.
Have to account for that,
but which I didn't, which is why I was an hour late.
So what I'll be doing today, I have an electrician coming over. I'm going to put some more outlets into the garage here, and I will be hooking up the T5s, the remaining T5s I've got. I've got 2 running right now. I'll have 2 more hooked up, and then I've got 4 LEDs that I'll be hooking up also.
Which
these are the Kessel AP700s.
So for those of you who like in the freshwater side, you know how expensive Kessel can be at times. And that's just the 160s are expensive, not the 360s. And these are way nicer than either of those. Because like you have 360s on one of your frag tanks.
Right, on my 40-gallon breeder, I've got 2 of the A360Xs.
And these are the AP700s, which are real nice. They're real nice. Well, Darren, thank you very much. Again, if you guys really want to follow this tank, especially when we do a walk around, you'll see just how insane this thing is. Check out Rogue Aquariums. YouTube, Instagram. It's got a website too. Eventually we'll be selling some coral. So for those who might want to dive into the salt side, I'm kind of trying to coach a little bit because I want somebody who's going to teach freshwater people how to do salt. And mostly that's for my own purposes so that when I do make that plunge, which will be a little bit, but when I do make that plunge, I'll be armed with all the information I could ever need.
I think if you have good management and husbandry skills as a freshwater hobbyist, you can transverse into saltwater. And a lot of people say, well, it's really hard. Saltwater is no harder than freshwater. You just have certain parameters that you have to follow when it comes to testing. You've got to be a little bit more stringent on your testing, but it's not really harder to keep a saltwater system than it is a freshwater. With that being said, it's more expensive.
Yeah.
Because I've been on both sides of the spectrum. Especially if you're doing something this large here, this took a lot of planning and it's taken a lot of money. But I want it built a certain way, and I want to create as much redundancy on here as I can to try to keep it automated.
Right. But if you're doing something simple, like say a 40-gallon breeder, you don't really need. You can just, your 40-gallon breeder, they'll see this has an AquaClear 110 on it.
Sure, it's got an AquaClear 110 and a J-Bow PP8 also, and I've got a hang on the back protein skimmer, and that's it.
Yeah, so it's nothing. It's not like it's a crazy sum and
no.
A calcium reactor, and I'm just thinking like Apex controllers. That's what this thing has, but you don't have to go that crazy.
No, not at all. You can keep it low tech when you're setting up a saltwater tank. You can keep it as low tech as you want to.
Just like freshwater,
sure.
Low tech. Awesome, Darren. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for having me on.
You can't see this, but we're shaking hands.
Appreciate it.
So as always, guys, if you enjoyed this, shoot a comment down below. Let us know what would you like to see of this tank when we come back the next time, just so I know, and then I can film it for you. If you like the video, the thumbs up. It's the usual YouTube thing. If you hate the video, if you don't want to ever see saltwater, hit the thumbs down twice. Let me know just how much you hate it. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome. Bye.